A7, sorry, I was on mute. I'm not sure you said anything.
Yeah, no, nothing yet.
I was on mute, not only my mic, but my speaker as well.
All right,
I
okay.
literally can't hear or listen to anything.
I'll give it a couple more minutes to see if Ryan or Quarantine join. Right, well, let's get started. Welcome everybody to the September 30th SIG Multicluster call. And since my Zoom crashes when I try to share things, I'd appreciate it if people could share their screen if they want to discuss, well, specific scrub items. So the first one I imagine is you, Mike, KEP 5313, the placement decision API.
Yes, I mean, I'm going over your review feedback right now. I don't have much updates since last time. I think we made a little bit more adjustments, and then I think yeah, I'm not sure Ryan wants to discuss anything extra, but yeah, we'll definitely address your feedback, and then hopefully we'll have another go at it. Ryan,
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. So just for anybody else on the call who's interested, so there was initially I had the impression that the KEP was really driven. Well, placement decisions were really driven by well, Kubefleet style or ACM style or even Argo CD style placement requests for a specific resource. But most of the user stories revolve around having separate controllers that, well, at least that's how I'm understanding it. Maybe I'm wrong, but having controllers that set up placement decisions ahead of time to reflect the availability of various clusters in the cluster set. And I think that's a really interesting scenario as well. And it also helps explain how this KEP can be useful even though placement isn't defined. And well, I mean, the KEP can be useful, just placement decision as a response to placement, but with the scenarios where placement decisions are set up ahead of time, there's even less of a need for understanding what placement is. Yeah, so I thought that was interesting and perhaps worth emphasizing more, not necessarily why it makes the KEP interesting, but just in the various scenarios that some of them are in response to a scheduling request and others are information to, well, I guess it's help scheduling ahead of time. And that also helps explain why some placement decisions are liable to be updated during their lifetime, which was something we discussed in the previous call. Right, so the next one is the dual stack policies and fields. And so this was mostly waiting for feedback from Antonio. But I don't really see, any reason why the current version would be wrong.
Maybe we could like merge it and tell Antonio if he has any concern. I'm willing to like do another PR to fix it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's okay.
So I approved it anyway. So if
Yeah.
anybody else wants to LGTM it, it will get merged.
And so don't hesitate to also approve the other.
Yeah, 104.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, 104. Yes.
All right, thank you. And then there's 116, which is the label with CRD version, which I'd said I would look at a couple of weeks ago, I think, and then forgot about. And so I've approved it too. So same deal there, just needs another LGTM. And then the last one is, right, I added to the scrub, but Michael isn't in the call, but it's quite interesting. It's 5559, which is adding additional cluster specific auth info. But that probably, well, there's not much point in me trying to explain what it is. So I added it to the scrub just in case. All right, Ryan, yeah, go for it.
Yes, so this one, let me see if I can share the screen. Let me see if this is the latest. I have the high level ideas. Okay, yeah, this is the latest. Let me see if I can share this. Perfect. Okay, let's share. Oh, share here. Oh, sorry, which one is the one? Oh. Just give me a second. I'm trying to figure out which one I should share. Oh, this one. Okay. Am I sharing the right screen? The 5339?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, do I need to adjust the font?
Yeah, it's a bit small. You can zoom in a little bit. All right, thanks.
Okay, so the basic idea is that after we looking at the credential parts, we realized that when okay, let me just verify what this thing is. So in the so-called credential provider, again, I have a problem with that name. In a cluster provider, there is basically we included the whole information is included in a structure called a cluster, and which is part of a client goal. So that's not something that we invent. It is whatever is in the cluster, cluster type defined in the client. Maybe I can click this so that anyway, I just verbate whatever this KP is. So it is relatively flexible in the case that there is a struct called a extension inside that cluster. So yeah. This one, cluster, this one. So we actually basically embedded this guy in our cluster profile. That's the gist of it. So our cluster profile basically has this guy, and inside this guy we should have an extension. This extension is very flexible, in a sense that you can put pretty much, because it's basically a map to a runtime object. So in theory, you can put in anything. However, this extension is used by there is a KEP in this, I think it's by SIG off that define how you should use this extension, and so that KEP reserved a name. So remember that extension is a key map pair, right? It's a key value pair map. So when the key is this, it will be it's for per cluster information for authentication exe plugins. Again, just to explain our high level idea of the credential part is basically user provide a real credential provider provide a exe plugin, and inside our cluster profile we have a cluster type. So these two basically following the client goal structure, we can actually authenticate the user. But if we just want to use this extension, the only way it is actually defined way to use it is in this KP 541. But that's not what we actually want to use it. It's corporate copy of blah 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 blah. So that's it, it's defined. Yeah. Anyway, it's specifically defined how it's used, and it will be put into an environment variable called Kubernetes ex info. So that's how the 541 is designed to use this. But our plugins, so this one is basically the extension becomes a Kubernetes exe info. But our plugins is what this exe is, right? So from our providers, they may not always read from this environment variable, because this environment variable is for whatever reason, it is not how every plugin is used this way. So there are two ways to kind of solve this problem. One way is we define our own way to we allow each provider to define their own way how they can use this extension field. So basically, they don't have to follow KP 541. They can use whatever thing. Basically it's a provider. Credential provider becomes not a single. Let me see. I don't have the code. I don't know if everyone is familiar with that. We have a piece of code that is grabbed whatever useful information from a cluster and combine that with the exe config, and then becomes the real credential provider. So there's kind of three ways to do that. One is we currently don't want the user to change the implementation of that library. So our library is in the to be better. Oh, oh, let me So, by the way, we had a long discussion with Corentin in the APAC meeting. So yeah, so this is the library. This is the current our library. So this is the real credential provider. By the way, this is a real credential provider. That credential provider comes with this exec config, which is basically, you can think of that as the wrap for that plugin. And we have this function called build this one. So this is a function that basically gets the class provider with the real credential provider and then come up with this REST config, right? This is actually basically the real logic is here. So here we didn't handle the extension at all. Like in this function, we didn't handle the extension at all. So if we want to handle the extension, there's three ways. One is because everybody's plugin can have different ways to use the extension. So we have to open up this implementation for any provider, say whatever GKE or AKS or whatever, to have their own implementation. Which after we discussed with Corentin and the Chojian, we don't like that approach. And so then the next thing is, I think, is this guy. I think in this guy is yeah. So the next way is we define our own keys, basically. So we reserve a naming extension, basically have an extra key. This key holds all the arguments, and another key holds all the environment variables. So we want to define basically two more keys in that extension map. And so that it kind of have the better of both worlds is we don't need to specifically change any APIs in this current API, but also we explicitly avoid getting violate the KP 541, and so we added our own keys in those extensions. And in our implementation, we would honor these extensions, find these two keys, and find the bits in the extension field in that map, and then make them parameters. Because in the end, just to get there are arguments and environment variables specifically set up in that exe config in this config. So this is config exec provider. So this is the real result. This is part of this, and inside that there are already fields reserved for that. It's just we don't have an established way to fill these. This KP just to fill that gap that we define this way how users should use it, instead of allow everyone to implement their own implementation, so that it can be truly plug and play. I don't know if I make it clear. It's a little bit involved. Hopefully, I get the gist of it. Yeah. Any questions? If not, I have a question kind of on and this how do we move forward? Also including the decision scheduling decision API. I think we addressed every comments. What's the process to move forward?
Right. Well, so for this one, I hadn't had time to review it properly, but it makes a lot of sense. Thanks. So along with the topic that you added to the call as well, the cluster inventory API PR to rename the credential provider fields. So yeah, I'll review those. The decision API, I added a couple of questions to the PR, essentially asking for, well, so there's some stuff on the tests that seem rather ambitious to me, and we should probably just scope that down. And then on the user stories, some of them are reactions to placement scheduling requests, and others are information that's added ahead of time, and I think it'd be useful to distinguish the cases more explicitly. And then apart from that, I need to discuss it again with Jeremy, so I'll try to get that done soon.
That's good.
And we can move things forward. Yeah, so do you want to talk about cluster inventory API pull request 23 or?
I can describe this again just to get I have that share this in again. Yeah, so this is a pull request. So as I mentioned earlier, that actually these two are actually very close together, or at least the one gives the background, is a yeah, exactly here. So before the change, let's see if I can make it. Yeah. So what the initial KEP basically added this field into the status on a high level, and the status is allow user to provide enough information for user to provide that exe plugin, and then we can create. I show the code that the code I just showed. Actually, the code is here. The same code to combine. So basically, this is the key, right? So it combines the cluster profile with the credential provider to get the real config. However, it's a little bit confusing. Actually, it's pretty confusing initially for me. Was before I actually get into the code was we call this cluster provider credential provider. It was called credential provider. And if you look at the code, it's like credential provider combined with another credential provider and becomes something. So I was kind of confused. And after looking at the code and the KP, a KP actually is fine. It's mostly this the code because I get an idea of the KP, but then this threw me off. But then I realized that this guy inside this cluster provider basically basically just a name plus this cluster. Cluster is what I think I showed here is basically this guy. And clearly the cluster contains, this is the client Go cluster structure. It says contains information about how to communicate with the Kubernetes. There's nothing credential about it. There's absolutely no user credential included in here, and which is not possible, right? We have a cluster profile. It should not have anything to do with any user because we don't even know who is going to connect to this cluster. So that makes a lot of sense. So basically, I just want to correct the misconcept that this actually have any give it another name. The initial comment was also kind of off. It says a list of credential providers. It's actually it's not. It didn't provide any credential. The biggest I think issue now is this is supposedly V1 Alpha 1. So there were some apparently some implementations of this that may need to be changed. I think most of us, all of us, agree that this is not the best name. The only difference is I think we've had this kind of conversation on MCS API a few weeks back. I remember that is we all agree this name is not good. Just we don't agree whether it's worth replacing it. For here, I feel like it's different. Instead of MCS, that is relatively, it's supposedly like a production ready V1 Alpha 1, but this one is less than that. Like this one is still very new. We have very few implementations. So I feel like this could be changed. And the worst case is, especially with the 5.3, this change of this KP, we could potentially add a V1 Alpha 2 to make this at least keep the V1 Alpha 1 and then add the rest there. I don't know what's the community's opinion on this. Yeah, any thoughts?
Well, maybe you're not sharing the right screen because right now I'm looking at the Bing search.
Am I still showing the Bing search?
Yeah. I just see the cluster profile API summary on the Bing page.
Weird. Oh. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So did you also have? So the main person that was objecting it was quarantine, right? And
Yeah.
but did you also talk to him in the APAC meeting because he's not in this
Yeah.
meeting? Was there
Yeah.
anything?
I talked to him. As I said, we agree that
Okay.
this name is not right. But we kind of he is a little bit reluctant on correct this name just because there's some implementation that needs to be adjusted. So that's what, and he also wants to hear the community's opinion, whether that name is basically it's put it down this way, whether this name is bad enough that we want to take the pain to change it, or it's not that bad, and we all agree it's not good. It's hard to agree that how bad it is. I feel like this is like fundamentally wrong in the sense that it at least the comment is not absolutely change the comment is I think there's no brainer because it doesn't break anything. Because the initial comment was like just doesn't make any. It's a wrong comment anyway. Whether we change the name of that field, is it too disruptive now to change? I feel like it's V1 alpha 1. So if we cannot change anything of V1 alpha 1, then we kind of lose the whole point of having a V1 alpha 1. Oh yeah, that's kind of my personal approach. But yeah, I'm open to. I mean, again, it's just a name, so it's not a like end of the world. So just want to hear the community. I haven't seen much conversation there other than Trojan. I think you mentioned something.
Yeah, I think the implementation is not good enough as an excuse to not change it. If we all agree to change it, we should change it because, like you said, it's V1 Alpha 1.
Yeah. Again, I'm not sure how we proceed. We do have, this is not a KP, so we actually do have ownership there. Like approvers, maintainers there. But I'm not 100%. I still want to hear the community's feedback. But
Yeah, well, we're owners of our own KEPs as well, so that's it's not much of a problem. But in terms of, well, unless something needs API review, I'm wondering if it would be possible, well, there's one way forward, maybe to keep the existing fields and add cluster access providers as an additional field, and then just make the structs aliases of each other. Well, have cluster access provider be the real struct, and then just have cluster providers be a type alias for it. That wouldn't break any old code. And then we could just say that the old field is deprecated and will be removed for GA. Maybe that would be more acceptable.
Are you talking about adding another field? Basically, keep the original one, add another field, and say this field is not supposed to be. The old field is going to be deprecated. Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, not going to be deprecated. Is deprecated in this PR, and it will be removed for GA.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that seems to be that seems to be a pattern. I've seen this pattern a few times in different projects. Yeah, okay, I can change that. That probably can make it easier.
Do we need the word cluster? Because then it'll be even more similar to the old pattern, right? Like, It's just access providers. I mean, what
Yeah, we
what
can
other
remove
access?
that. Yeah, because it's already said cluster profile.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
cluster here in everywhere. So if just say access provider, I don't mind that word. Yeah, at all. I'm very open to the names other than credential. They basically just want to get rid of that credential thing. And anything else, actually, I don't have strong opinions. If we think access provider is good, I'm good.
Yeah, because then it's easier to know that, oh, this actually replaces the old credential providers as well. Because it's like you just look at credential provider and access provider, they're
Might
you
be a
know
bit
something is up.
confusing. That makes sense. Yeah, exactly. Like here, we didn't say it's a cluster properties, so
Yep.
that makes sense. Yeah. Cool. Okay, I'll make a change. That probably can make it a lot less, at least a bit less friction there. Cool. Okay. That's it for me. Good suggestions there.
All right, thanks. Yeah. So Cornton added a few topics. He's not on the call, but I think we've just gone over them because it was about cluster profile credentials, extensions passed from CP to cloud providers. That's what you were talking about in 5559, and then naming, which is what we just discussed. And so the last topic topics are Arthur's.
Hey, yes. I don't know if you want me to share my screen. Maybe yes. Wait.
Yes, please.
There we go.
If you can.
Okay, I think you see it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yes, so as some of you know, I have this proposal to add some multi-cluster load balancing bits. But I think we might want to support the regular service API load balancing behavior first, because I mean, once all the change to MCS lands, I would expect that we might be ready to go V1 beta 1. And it would be a bit a shame that we don't support the current service API things before doing that. So yeah, this pair is essentially just adding those two fields like they are done in the service API. So, well, that's the whole PR. I don't know if you have comments about doing that, or I can talk about other things, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, it makes sense to me at least.
Okay.
So, they're on the review queue anyway, so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just opened it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Okay,
actually
cool.
something I wanted to look into in relation to the just distribution document. Was exactly what the current state of the world in terms of topology and so on with services. And so this is a step towards that.
Yep. Oh, by the way, I'm thinking about that. I didn't add the external traffic policy bits because I'm not sure anyone is going to actually use that. But if there are use case, I'm favorable to add it, I guess. And external traffic policy, it should be when you have a load balancer service. But I don't know why you would have that in case of service import and all of that. But yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, what are your thoughts about promotion to V1 Beta 1 after all of that? Since it's the last topic.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's still the whole, well, once we land the various things that are in progress, there's still the discussion around all the service import changes, but I suspect they'll end up not happening and we'll just do the status and conditions.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. I'll have to check what the current discussions are on that. I don't think there's been anything new.
Yeah, well,
recently.
the last time we properly discussed about that was when Jeremy and you was there, and we said probably not worth it.
Yeah. So that's the last big thing, and then then V1 Beta 1.
Okay, nice. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah. I'll have to make sure the conformance tests are up to date, but I think they're okay. Tom's been paying attention to that. There's been a few other contributors, so that's good. Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll be ready.
Yay.
All right. Well, thanks. So there aren't any other topics on the agenda. Does anybody else have anything they want to discuss? If not, we can finish early.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Okay.
So thanks everybody for joining, and see you next time. Have a good rest of the week.